Hello everyone, Jessica here, and welcome back to my YouTube channel and blog. So today I am actually making a sympathy card. It's much easier to have a small stock or a large stock, whatever you want. It's just easier to have a few on hand so that when the time does happen, I hope it doesn't, but when the time does happen, you already have them and you don't have to make it in the moment. So it's a little easier. What I have is a Simon Says stamp, handwritten floral greeting stamp, and this was part of their monthly stamp club. And I'm using the Hero Arts Unicorn Pigment ink and stamping that one of the floral images in that white pigment ink onto Kraft cardstock. And it's just a very pretty look that you can get with stamping white pigment ink onto Kraft cardstock like that. I'm taking one of the other leaf stamps and I'm using a Avery L pigment ink, and this one is in Celery. It's a great green color and it's an outline of the leaf stamp, so the insides of the leaf are not colored whatsoever. I'm going to actually go through with my Prismacolor pencils and do a little bit of coloring on those images. I don't use these Avery L pigment inks a lot. There's a lot of techniques that you can do with pigment inks. I just don't use them a whole lot. I think I've gotten more away from these ones and have been using the Distress Oxides so much because, you know, those are new and fun, and there's so many techniques that you can do with just Distress Oxides. But these Avery L pigment inks are really good, and even though they've been kind of sitting around for quite a while, they are still very juicy and they still ink up really well. And I should use them more on Kraft cardstock, or actually any color of cardstock really. They're just one of those items that I have that kind of always get pushed to the back, so I should bring them out a little bit more. So I'm using a Memento Tuxedo Black re-inker, and I've just dropped a few droplets onto an acrylic block stamp. I'm using a water brush that just happens to have water in it. I have several in a cup by my desk, and whichever one has water in it is usually the one I end up using. And then when they run out of water, I have to refill them all, and I start over and just start emptying one by one until they're all empty again. But I'm using that to wet down the ink a little bit, and then I'm going to splatter the card front with some black ink. And since it's Memento ink and it's a dye ink, and using it this way, it actually creates a kind of a faded, it's not an overpowering black splatter. It kind of fades out more by watering it down. So for the Sympathy card, I'm using the Hero Arts Prayers stamp and die set. I'm cutting out a piece of Simon Says stamp surf blue cardstock, and I did that twice in the blue and then once just because I didn't want to. I was using a scrap piece of the surf blue paper and I didn't want to cut out a whole big sheet, so I just layered it. I just cut out a piece of white cardstock. I think it's Nina. And then I'm going to layer the two blue ones over the top of the white cardstock die cut. And this is just going to add a bit of dimension to the prayers die. And I'm going to use a couple more of the sentiments from that Hero Arts Prayers stamp set. And I'm heat embossing these with Ranger White embossing powder, and I'm using my really gross, and I just need to throw it away, but I don't want to yet. Versamark ink pad. I have put that thing through some crazy things. I'm heat embossing this on a piece of Simon Says stamp black cardstock and heating it up with my Wagner heat gun. Once I'm done heating it all up, I can just trim down the sentiments with a pair of Tim Holtz scissors. I eyeball it. I can normally get it pretty straight. And cut that in half because it's two different parts of the sentiment, so they'll go on either side of the prayers die cut. Now I'm just cutting out a small piece of vellum with the rectangle in stitches Simon Says stamp die. And then cutting the whole Kraft cardstock in the same, with the larger die of the same set. I'm going to layer the Kraft panel onto I layered that Kraft cardstock panel onto a piece of Paper Ink Softstone cardstock, and then I'm going to layer that onto a Neenah 110-pound solar white card base. And then I can adhere the Prayers die cut sentiment. For the smaller die cuts like this that have a narrow space, I like to use my multimedia matte glue. And then I can layer the Prayers die cut onto that vellum rectangle that I had cut out earlier. Sorry, that's out of frame. And then I take the smaller sentiments that I white heat embossed on the black cardstock and layer those above and below the Prayers die cut. I like to add the vellum to the back of something like this. It helps the sentiment stand out a little bit more so it doesn't blend in so much. So my multimedia matte glue got clogged while I was using it. It's never done that to me before. It might be because it's almost empty, so there's a lot of air in there. I could not get it unclogged, so I just resort to the Zig 2A glue pen. And then I can adhere that vellum and die cut stamping piece to the middle of the Kraft panel. And I know it's a Sympathy card. You don't want a whole lot of glitz or glam or anything like that. I'll just add a little bit of shimmer from a Spectrum Noir glitter pen to that Prayers die cut. Then go over that with some glossy accents. So I got out my white Prismacolor pencil and I'm filling in the leaves that I had stamped earlier with the Avery Elle pigment ink. So I hope this might have inspired you to make a couple Sympathy cards. It's okay to keep the Sympathy cards pretty simple. With this one, I was going for more calming colors with the aqua blue and the greens and the whites. So it's just something that you do have to have on hand when you're a card maker and you give out cards. So I hope you enjoyed today's video. You can connect with me on Instagram or email me directly or comment below with any questions you might have about card making. I will always do my best to help. All the products I used today are linked on my blog and help support new products and supplies for this channel. Thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe to see the latest videos from me. I appreciate you and I will see you in the next one. Bye! Meh, meh.